The childcare industry is fucked. Hi, my name's Tassia, and I've worked in the early childhood industry my entire adult life, and I've owned my own childcare center for the past 7 years. So I know for a fact this industry is struggling, and I don't think enough people are talking about it. But if you are a parent or a childcare business owner or anyone working in the early childhood field, reasons why this industry is struggling so much. But the one I want to start with is insurance companies. They are dropping childcare centers left and right. And the reason why is because the risk is too high. Parents are suing more often, and the insurance companies just simply don't want the liability anymore. So now childcare centers are left with either unaffordable premiums or no coverage at all. One case that I know, a childcare center found out on the day that their insurance was supposed to be renewed that they were being dropped. They contacted over 60 providers and could not find coverage, and unfortunately had to immediately close. It's heartbreaking, but if you're lucky enough to have insurance, the cost has risen almost over 30%, and that varies based off your state and provider. But overall, insurance companies just don't want to handle such a high-risk field. And if you happen to be located in a state with a lot of natural disasters, it's just simply too expensive to even provide coverage for you. Which kind of leads me to my second reason childcares are struggling: cost. Inflation, basically. But sadly, the childcare industry has some of the lowest profit margins of any business. Chain childcare centers typically have about a 15 to 20% profit margin, but smaller programs have even less, and it's pretty typical for them to have as low as 5% profit margin. But inflation doesn't just affect the childcare owner, it can affect the parents too, and many of them simply can't afford high quality care. I live in Virginia, and when you compare the cost of the annual tuition for a childcare center to the annual tuition of a 4-year university, childcare center tuition is 7.93% higher than the 4-year university. The cost to care is high, but there's nothing the owner can do about it. Their number one expense is staffing. You simply cannot reduce staffing because state ratios have to be met. But staffing in general right now is a nightmare. A recent childcare business trend report came out for 2025, and staffing was the number one problem providers are struggling with. As an employer myself, I had felt like there were a lot of different reasons why it's super challenging. Background checks are really slow to come in, and many times by the time they're completed, the candidate has moved on to something else. Hiring and onboarding processes are sometimes antiquated with an industry that isn't really quick to update like many other industries are. And let's be honest, like some of them can make more just working at Chick-fil-A or Whole Foods. And I struggled with competing with that. And as a millennial, this might be controversial, but I really felt like the younger workforce is just not as resilient as the older generations are, especially those above me. A lot of people just can't cut this industry. Because of the low pay of this industry, a lot of times it relies on employees who are either fresh out of high school and it's their first jobs, or they have a family member or a spouse who supports them financially. And those younger candidates who are coming into the workforce, I hired some of them, and they would reveal to me after 2 weeks, they don't even know how to sing nursery rhymes. How do you work with children and you don't know nursery rhymes? And yeah, even though I think their work ethic maybe isn't as strong as the older generations, I really sometimes commend them because they're just not willing to put up with the bullshit that comes along with being a child worker sometimes, which is basically being underpaid and overworked, which is par for the course for almost everybody. Let's be real, teachers in general, everywhere, are underpaid and undervalued in America. If you stop and think about the fact that 90% of a child's brain develops between 0 and 5, then you know that before they even get to kindergarten, their early childhood teachers, who they spend most of their waking day with, is setting the foundation for the person they're going to become. And yet they make less than the person making your sandwich at Chick-fil-A, not to mention that there's barely any benefit. I have had to work alongside teachers who, unfortunately, because of the fact they never had a retirement benefit, had to work well past the point that their physical body couldn't even handle. I have seen elderly teachers fall and their hip completely comes out, or unfortunately in some cases, literally drop dead in the classroom because they simply don't have retirement benefits. And even though I'm young, as a childcare teacher, I struggled with the lack of benefits and had to work my entire shift in active labor because I couldn't afford the time off for my maternity leave. For real, I led a class of 20 pre-K students, had a coworker drive me from my work to the hospital, and I gave birth that night. I didn't even get a chance to stop and get a bag of clothes. So the pay and benefits suck. And trust me when I say childcare teachers are dealing with more stress than they ever have before. The behaviors we're seeing in children right now are out of control. Screen times are making it so they can't focus and they're addicted to being overly stimulated. Parenting practices are changing and children are acting out more, and there's a huge play deficit, leading children to not even be able to manage basic social interactions. And I don't think it's just the behavior. I think some of the stress has to do with the fact that each year that I've worked in this industry, I've noticed that more and more children have cognitive and behavioral divergencies, and the system isn't built to support them. And it's leaving the teachers overwhelmed and underprepared to be able to manage the needs of a classroom of 23-year-olds with only 2 teachers. The stress is causing owners, admin, and teachers to burn out. And without those important benefits to proactively address their mental health, the teachers cannot withstand the stress and the toll that it's taking on them. Another factor that's hurting the childcare industry is government support. Childcare isn't simply providing just a safe space for children. By the time a child is 3 or 4 years old, their vocabulary, attention span, and overall knowledge predicts their reading comprehension levels and more for 3rd grade. And 3rd grade reading comprehension levels are not only a marker for whether a child will graduate high school, but it's actually used by private prison systems to determine future incarceration rates. That's how significant early childhood education is. If we're not providing the right start through quality childcare, we risk setting them up for failure, both in school and beyond. That's why it's so crucial we invest in young learners, not only for their future, but for the well-being of society as a whole. But unfortunately, the government simply isn't doing enough. The subsidy programs that exist, they don't pay enough to cover the cost of high-quality childcare. And some of the programs that even take the subsidy have occasional problems with even getting paid on time and consistently. It's such a mess that over half the childcare providers in my town don't even accept subsidy. And if they do, the parent is still in charge of paying the difference, which is called the over-market rate fee. As a teacher, I found it really ironic that I struggled to pay the cost of childcare while working in the industry. I remember at one point in my career having $50 left in my check after the childcare deductions took place. But investing in high quality childcare is so important. And for the underserved community, it helps bridge developmental gaps and provide a foundation for cognitive and social development that will set them up for a positive trajectory. Without adequate support in these early years, we run the risk of perpetuating cycles. Therefore, the government has to rethink things and understand that investing in childcare and the teachers and programs is an investment in our collective future. So where does that leave us? Insurance is hard to find, teachers are burning out, kids are falling behind, parents can't afford it. And the toll that all of this is taking on the childcare business owner is monumental. I know for a fact they are stretched so thin. As a childcare owner, I could find myself within 1 hour filing taxes, wiping a butt, climbing the roof to get a stray ball, and driving the bus to go get a food order. The last year of owning my business, if anybody asked me how I was doing, I would tell them that the stress was literally taking years off my lifespan. I could feel the stress and cortisol levels impacting my body. I knew for a fact the constant stress and anxiety was impacting my body. And as a single mother of 3 children, that's not something I could afford to let happen. My children had already sacrificed their time by coming with me on the weekends to cut the grass or just my attention, but I'm deeply passionate about early childhood education, and I know the impact it can make on a family. I have had parents come to me saying that I have changed their entire family's life. So this field is so important, and I don't want to leave it entirely. And since I know for a fact that childcare owners are spending so much time putting out fires and handling emergencies that many of them don't have the time that it needs to work on their systems, operations, and tools and evolve their business and streamline. As a Virgo, a techie, and analytical person, that's an area where I thrived. I'm the kind of person that a childcare software company will get on a video call with me and take copious notes about my feedback about everything they're doing great and what they need changing. I compare and contrast all the tools out there and do months of research to make a decision. I have a real strength in setting up systems, and I want to share everything I've learned, and I want to share that with you. And so I thought I would start a channel to help support other childcare owners out there who don't have the time or knowledge to do it on their own. I'm also planning on interviewing other childcare owners so we can learn from their successes and failures. I'll post tech reviews, videos on how to build the best SOPs, tutorials, etc. If you're interested in learning about the childcare industry and what it takes to own it, you're gonna get a lot of information. If you're already in the childcare industry and you want to implement some of these systems, then I'm gonna have tutorials for you. But if you don't have the time to create them for yourself, or you just wanna speed it up and get it done quickly and then spend time at the spa, then I'm also creating an agency so that I can do it for you. Either way, I'm here to support you. And it would mean so much to me if you could support me by liking, subscribing, sharing, whatever on this channel, please. I know this is a new channel and I have a lot of ideas for videos to film, but if you could comment on things that you find challenging, I'm here to help. And I will do everything I can. Thank you for watching to the end of this video. I believe that the childcare industry can hopefully get out of survival mode and eventually thrive. And I'm just hoping that I can do a small something for somebody to help them get there. I appreciate you supporting my new channel by watching this, and I hope you have a wonderful day.